Hello, everyone. It's Paul Leslie here with ZeroBounce, and I'm welcoming for a second time Zach Nonnemacher. Now, for those of you who are familiar with the ZeroBounce blog, you can find an interview that I did of Zach in print form, but now I'm pleased to have him in full color coming right at you. Zach, thank you so much for making time to talk to me.
Of course, no problem. Happy to be here.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear it. Zach is a phenomenal writer. He is one of the best writers I've seen. He's also very, very expeditious. I don't even know if that's a word, but the ability that he has to churn out quality words is really unsurpassed. I've been blown away so many times by the work that you've done. A lot of your expertise has been in email. You've written a lot about email, as is the case with all of us here at ZeroBounce. Zach, can you tell us, what do you think are some things people can do to get better results from email that are easy? Things that they can do, but they're also easy.
Honestly, the first thing, not to just jump right off the self-promotion right away, but it really is honestly like one of the easiest things you can do. And that's just like clean your contacts before you start mailing. Obviously, I'm assuming anyone listening, they're bulk senders. You know, we're talking about a business perspective, but yeah, it's just like, you know, you wouldn't be having your sales team like dialing out numbers, not knowing if they're going anywhere and just, you know, hitting an error message or whatever. And it's the same thing with email. It's just, you know, you're taking a lot of time to put these campaigns together. And so it doesn't really make sense to just fire them off and not have any regard to where they're going, especially because it's way more of a risk with email because like, I'm not educated on the phone space. Maybe there is a similar system, but I know when you fire off emails and you're constantly sending them to nowhere, it will come back around and bite you. It makes it harder to email in the long run. But the good news with all that is it's something that it can take minutes depending on the size of your list. And it's you know, the service just does it for you. And it's one of the simplest things you can do. I know the problem with it is that we as people don't always like to take preventative action. We like to wait until there's already a problem. And then we're like, man, what do I do? I'm in the mud now. So it's just one of those things. It's not expensive. Just do what you got to do to clean your emails, and that'll already put you way ahead of a lot of people. Beyond that, I like to. I'm obviously going to talk more from a content perspective, and for context, I didn't go to school for marketing, if that matters. So to all what you were saying, so I don't have like all the courses and all the textbook knowledge of you do this and do this and do this. I come from it just from a perspective of a consumer. You and I and everyone listening, they just get emails to their inbox. And if it's a nonsense email that feels like it's not talking to you as a person, you're not going to pay any mind to it. I would say like with your emails, there's a lot of tips out there as far as like how to design your emails. And a lot of it's good advice that can also impact whether it's even reaching someone. But regarding the text, I almost want to give the advice of like, don't overthink it. Like if you know what you're trying to, you have something worth saying to somebody, then you kind of already have the basis for what you're trying to say, and just talk to your audience like you talk to a person. And I know that gets a little bit more complicated when you're emailing 50,000 plus people. There's a lot of different people on that list, and maybe that's another tip you can go into. You talk about segmenting your list. That's a little less easy because, you know, depending on like what resources you have, getting that data can be a little bit more difficult, but it's something that's worth the investment. It's not as easy, but something you should do. But overall, that'd be my recommendation is don't overcomplicate the message. If it doesn't need more text, don't add it. Don't think you need to add stuff just for there to be there. Honestly, most people, just thinking about me from like my business inbox, I'm busy. I don't really like read a lot of it anyway. It's kind of like, what's the value point? And then I'm in and out. So just think of it like that. You know, you don't want to waste people's time, and that's less work you have to do. So that'd be my 2 big points.
That is such good advice. First of all, you were saying, just talk to me. Talk to me like a human being. And also segment. That's another good piece of advice. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing you were saying, which I think people can't have enough of, is don't give me just like be respectful of my time. Mm-hmm. How many emails do you think you get a day if you include your personal email account? Just throw out a guess.
I probably less than some of the other team members. I'm kind of quiet over here, so like maybe like 30 to 50 depending on the day. But that just depends on how active some eager outreach people want to be. Maybe they, I'm in the arena now where people just look at my job title and they start sending me stuff that in reality, I'm not the right person to talk to, but I understand that's kind of part of the game. Sometimes you don't know who the right person to talk to is. And it's hard, but that's a little different. I'm in this space, so I understand what you're trying to do. But it's also something to keep in mind of, because maybe some people don't know and they're like, why is this person emailing me? Spam. That's it. So I think that's all the more reason why I say when you send out those emails, the last thing I want to see is a clearly AI written script or whatever. Right. Like if you're going to take the time to email me, give me like, hey, Zach, this is why I found you. This is why I'm emailing you. It goes a long way to like not just make me completely disregard you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Zach, what tends to make most people pay attention to an email? Could you put it into words? What is it?
I can say for me and from what I've seen with ours, it's how direct you are to the point. I think some people get a little too cute. There's a lot of emphasis on like subject lines, and I get it. It's almost like verging on the area of clickbait where it's like, oh, I want to make it intriguing. But it's almost like I almost want to like caution away from that because then I don't know what this is. And if I only have so much time, then maybe I don't even click the email. I'm just like, I don't got time for this. So my recommendation is again, if you're emailing someone, you already know what you want to say. So just say, this is what this is. So I look at it. Again, it's respecting me. I know what it is. I'm interested in that or I'm not interested in it. Because I think sometimes one of the things we get carried away with as marketers is just trying to make those numbers go up. Whereas I would much rather have a much smaller email list with people that when I email them, I know they want to get it. Because the last thing I want to do is email someone and know that they're just hating my emails every time I send it to them. That's the last thing I want to do. Oh, it's not helping me. It's not helping them. So that's one thing. It's the directness. And the other part of it goes back to, everyone's probably heard this term a million times, but like it really is like the most important thing. It's segmenting. And segmenting is not just learning more about the person, but it's, what have they done recently to interact with me? What is bringing them to me so that I can address that directly? The timing of it is also huge. Like some of the most successful emails I send are, you're a host of our webinar content, and I love sending emails to those people because there's like probably not a more engaged list. They signed up for this event, they showed up, they had a great time. They're interested in the content. So when I send them an email, I already know about them. I know what we talked about. I know what they're looking for. And it's like the immediacy of the request. So these are all kind of things you want to think about when you're sending an email is, it's as best as you can, trying to simplify it down to almost that one-to-one connection, which sounds weird. I got so many email contexts, but that's really kind of the goal that you're trying to think about it as, who is that other person sitting on the other side of the screen? Not just throw something out there and hopefully something sticks. It's no, there's a person on the other side of the screen that I want to talk to. And, we've even seen on our stuff, it's, some businesses are different. You want a higher conversion rate or whatever. But sometimes like if you're selling like higher value purchases, I get 10 interested people and they're really interested and we make a deal, that's worth the email campaign. I would say just avoid the fluff, be direct, and be mindful of what you're sending and when you're sending it, because all of that stuff, I can tell you from experience, it makes an astronomical difference. From a difference of no one read this email at all versus, wow, you would think this is the greatest email ever written. And it had nothing to do really, honestly, with what I wrote per se. It's just the right connection, the right time, and just keeping it to the point.
Zach, you are putting this so well. Now, I want to make a little point here. Zach, tell us the band that's still touring, that still plays, that you like the most.
Oh boy, this has been a musical year for me. Still touring. Not to waste time. Band I've been kind of obsessed with the past couple of years is a band called Sleep Token. They're like taking over the world. They're a UK-based band. They're kind of experimental. That's been heavy. They came out with a new album recently. Finally got tickets in September to go see them. So that's maybe not my favorite, but it's the one that's on my mind right now. So that's what I'll go with.
Okay. And you did expose me to Sleep Token. So
yeah.
I know the band you're talking about. Now, I want you to use your imagination for a second.
Okay.
Imagine you're checking your email and that you see Sleep Token has added a second show in the subject line. It says, would you like to see Sleep Token? And they were performing not in the nearest city to you, but in the town that you're in right now. If you saw that in the subject line, do you want to see Sleep Token in, fill in your town, USA? How would you react?
Immediate click.
Immediate click.
It's a done deal. You know I'm a fan. You know I want to see you. You're making it as easy as possible for me to do it. I mean, in this example, in reality, it'd probably sell out by the time I clicked on that link, but that's kind of to the point, is to your point, actually, is that email is going to explode.
Right.
Yeah.
The reason I brought this up, I was talking with Jay Schwedelson the other day about this. And how many times has it happened to you, Zach, where you saw an email in your inbox and for that split second, even subconsciously, you thought, that's me, that's me. And what did you do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very particular. I'm trying to think more along the lines of my personal inbox, because maybe that's a little bit more applicable. The business one, it's like, it's a different ball game. So, but yeah, I subscribe to lists that I know that I want, first of all, which is important. That's another thing. There's a lot of people that are like finding data from all different weird places. I feel very strongly about emailing people that didn't ask for it. So that's a big step. I asked for these emails, and yeah, they pop up. It's usually, hey, so-and-so's touring near you. Hey, here's some products you might be interested in. I'm at least going to check it out. I can't promise I'm going to buy anything, but I saw your products, and that comes down to like the goal of the email too. It's like, what are you trying to do? Obviously you want me to buy, but did you not succeed somehow in me making me aware of what you're offering? Now I'm thinking about it. So yeah, all those types of emails, they're always made for me because frankly, I asked for them for the most part, I would say. So I don't know if that quite answers your question, but.
Absolutely. It
Yeah.
does. So you just imagine a subject line pops up in your inbox. Have you written 100,000 words today? Are you tired of writing? Click.
That I might be skeptical of. I'm like, okay, what is this? Some AI nonsense you're trying to sell me? I'm good. But I get what you're trying to say, though. Yeah.
A little humor here. Now, you brought up AI. Are you making the most of AI? How do you feel about it now that it's not so new anymore?
So it's funny because I feel like it's almost like a bi-weekly, not a debate, but certainly a discussion that happens in our Slack channel. I have very strong opinions about AI, and I admit that comes from less of, I mean, it's kind of weird to say, I was going to say less of a business-minded perspective and more of like protecting the artists of the world, the creators. I care very much about that kind of thing. So my gut instinct is always like, I don't want AI anything. I would rather take the worst email from a person that was written poorly and it's a mess. Honestly, that might even endear me more to it because I know it came from a person.
Mm-hmm.
And for what it's worth, from what we've seen, and I think ZeroBounce supports this, that's why our customer support is so active, is there's still immense value in the person connection. So maybe I'm being a little too nihilistic about, the rise of AI and its takeover. So like, I think maybe we will become more nuanced in our usage of it. There are certainly a lot of cases in a lot of different industries where people are just straight up copy and pasting AI and getting rightful backlash for it. So the overall feeling about AI is I think it has a place if we as people can learn to use it maturely. It's certainly, I think it's one thing positive I think I can say is it's certainly a drastic room for improvement over how we search for information on the internet. Because I think, at least in the circles I follow online, I see a lot of people really dissatisfied with Google search results as of late, which perhaps maybe that was just the natural conclusion of, the pay-to-play space taking over search results. The quality's going to go because we'd rather sell the space to the highest bidder rather than worrying about the best information. Sorry if I'm being a little harsh on Google right now. I don't really have a strong opinion on it, but there are times where I go visit a website and it's like, you know what? They're making it a little difficult to find this information. What if I just ask ChatGPT, hey, does this information exist? Can you find it? And sure enough, they'll find it.
Right.
But the difference is I'm being diligent. I'm going through and looking at those links. What are the sources? I mean, this is just straight up going back to college days. I'm not just copying and pasting whatever I found on any, I was talking to my wife about this the other day. We grew up with the internet as kids, and our parents were always like, don't believe everything you read on the internet. Whereas I feel like there's almost a crowd nowadays where it's like, well, ChatGPT said it is, or
right.
I found it there, so I believe it. It's like, No, it's what ChatGPT. I'm not a tech expert, but to my best understanding, it's not really thinking. It's scouring the internet for data that was created by other people, and it's trying its best to put it in a way that makes sense for you and gives you a good experience to answer your question. And that has a lot to do with the prompt you give it. So in that sense, it can be a really helpful tool for gathering information. It can be even really great sometimes. I mean, I know with ZeroBounce, there's a lot of times I ask for feedback and they're just busy. They got stuff going on. But as a writer yourself, in a perfect world, you should always have a bouncing board if you're being creative with something, because you get stuck in your own ways writing about the same stuff over and over again. You start to lose track on what's good and what's bad. So that's also a cool thing is sometimes I ask it, hey, what do you think of this? And it gives me its feedback. Sometimes I'm like, okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Or, oh, that's terrible feedback. But that's also true with people. Sometimes you get terrible feedback, but it still makes you think about it a different way. So I use it a lot in that regard. Sometimes I'm just like, to your point about writing 100,000 words a week, like burnout is real if you write a lot. And there are just some days where it's just, I got the brain fog going. I just need something to grease the wheels a little bit. What's going on? So that's a little bit of a context for how I use it in different ways. I'm not a fan of just creating whole emails or pages or presentations with it. If you want to use it to make a structure, sure, but don't leave the human element out of it. Not even just for my personal recommendation, but I think people are becoming more savvy as to clearly a robot made this. And you don't want that reaction either. Just don't use it, but don't use it as an excuse to not do the work, because it still matters a lot.
Absolutely. So, Zach, can you give us a specific example, even if you make one up, of here's an example of how Zach would use AI to do something?
A good example sometimes it's usually whenever I have to do like a bulk amount of content in like rapid succession. So maybe I have a lineup. I need to make a batch of emails prepared for something. And I already, before AI, would get worried. It's like, oh, if I do like the same thing in a row, maybe it sounds too similar. Maybe I'm getting too formulaic and stuff. So I'll write my whole email and then I'll just say, hey, what do you think of this? This was what I was trying to do with it. This was kind of the emotion I was trying to do, whatever it is, whatever the goal. Just ask it what it thinks. It'll be pretty thorough about going through and analyzing the whole email. With a grain of salt, with a big grain of salt, just consider what is it saying? Are you making good points here? Is there something that I missed? Because even as strongly, like as much as I I'm kind of like about AI sometimes. It's still, I'll listen to feedback from anything and everywhere. I make mistakes all the time. So if it catches something, and if it can even so much as say, hey, I took it this way, maybe you didn't think about this. It might be just enough to move the needle to just make some small adjustments and tweaks. I'm not using usually any of the text it gives me. I mean, it's possible. Hey, that's a good line. That just tweaked what I had, whatever. It's fine. But it's really, I'm not just saying this so that, anyone thinks, oh, Zach doesn't use AI. No, I really feel strongly about, I would rather at the end of the day send out an email that has flaws, but it's me versus just relying on the tool, because at that point, then what am I doing? So it's always in that example, and that's usually the example. It's take a look at this. Did I succeed in what I was trying to do? Or what do you think about it? And just knowing that it's not the law. It's just an interesting sort of feedback to hear when you don't really have a better alternative, I think.
Well, us writers, sometimes we're torn between, we look at something we write and we say, this is either brilliant, this may be one of the most wonderful things ever, or is it possible that this is utter garbage? I don't know. And at least AI is somewhat impartial. It's like, look, let me analyze this. What you are saying, it might make sense to you, but not everybody understands it. So, there's that. If anybody out there has a small business and maybe they think they can't afford a copywriter, what kind of advice would you give that person? They've got a small business and they're trying to get something going, but they just think, do we have the money to afford a copywriter? What would you say?
That's tough. Well, first and foremost, I would say at the very least, I would say you need a copywriter. Like, think about what channels are probably the priority for you. Or like, what do you mean you need a copywriter? Do you need someone to write emails? Because that's important. I need someone to write and maintain a blog. I need someone to maintain social media, because some people have different opinions about this, but I think you would agree with me. Those all require a dedicated person to do well. And it takes a different kind of writing for each of those as well. So I'd say if you have limited resources, first stop and be like, why specifically do I need this copywriter? That can maybe better align your goals, because then you can understand, okay, well, I need someone to write emails. I want to send 2 to 3 emails a month or something. Let's start with that. I think you can start working with that. Maybe you can't afford to employ someone as a full-time hire on, but there's a lot of people that love freelancing. They're traveling the world as writers that would be more than happy. Hey, what do you need? It's just a small amount of copy. They got pennies per word or whatever their rate is. And there are ways to make it happen. And honestly, this might be a less popular feedback, but I always encourage people. I appreciate all the compliments about my writing, and maybe I play down my skill a lot, but I really think everybody can write if they really want to. I'm not saying you have to be Shakespeare. Honestly, you don't need to be. You're writing a business email. Again, I have a product. I know you want it. Let's talk about it. That's really the kind of the crux of your email. So maybe even you're someone, maybe you have a different use case for AI. You're like, hey, I'm not really confident in how to write this email. How would you structure this email? Maybe you even need to get me started. And maybe just take a crack at it. Because honestly, what's the worst that's going to happen? You send out an email and it doesn't perform well. Well, that happens to all of us. So you're now doing email marketing, first of all, I would say. So maybe you even try it yourself. I think a lot of people just decide, I can't write. But then I see them, the way they talk, or I see them talk in presentations and stuff. And I'm like, this person could absolutely put together a few lines. And I think especially the one thing that I will say about us as writers is we're often like absorbing knowledge from other people. We're often not the experts, especially like in our company. We're not the email deliverability specialist per se. I mean, I've learned a lot about the topic. I've had the privilege of working with experts, and I've like a sponge to their knowledge. But I always go back to even in some of the materials I'm writing right now. I'm specifically looking for quotes or insights from those experts, because nobody knows the topic better than you do. So maybe I'm just trying to act a little bit of optimism, but maybe just try giving it a try yourself and see how it works out. But like I said, if that's something that's definitely not on the table, there's a lot of different avenues. You'd be surprised. There are a lot of people willing to take on projects if you can't bring on someone full time. But as you grow, I definitely make your copy a priority, because it's gonna build into everything long term.
Now, Zach, we have learned together separately so much about email deliverability, email hygiene, email marketing. What is the most surprising thing you've learned? And I hope I'm not stealing yours, but I'll tell you that one that I learned. Okay. I didn't know that so many of my emails from my personal domain were landing in spam because my domain was not warmed up. I started using this domain, and it was like, nobody's getting my emails. I warmed it up with ZeroBounce. They didn't pay me any extra to say this, but it made all the difference for deliverability. Is there anything that you've been surprised to find out? Like, oh, I did not know this.
There's actually a lot of stuff, I would say, just specific to email clients, which frankly, I'm still trying to become a master over. I think a lot of people probably don't even know this is, you send out an email and let's say you test it out. Oh yeah, I checked it. I tested it on my iPhone. I checked it in Gmail or whatever, and it all looks good. It's like, we know from experience, we've had problems with emails, and sometimes it's like a very specific niche case. Someone's using like an old version of Outlook. All of these ESPs have different technology in place that they go about displaying these emails, which can kind of cause all kind of little weird things to happen sometimes. So it's really, really difficult actually to account for every possible experience. And that's important, because one of the things we talk about with just a good email experience and improving your deliverability is to make your email responsive to all those types of experiences. But there are some, like I'm learning, there are some weird niche ones where you only have so much control over it, or I'm like, hey, maybe we need to look at this other tool here, maybe incorporate that. Specifically, like with issues, a lot of people might not know this, like most people nowadays use dark mode. I know I do. And all the ESPs, they handle that differently. Some of them just straight up read the HTML you have in, and then I believe it's Gmail that is kind of like almost like playing this guessing game and trying to like palette match. And it's like, oh, okay, I need to learn a little bit more about how that works rather than just relying on this tool, because it's displaying it, well, in this case, on my screens and my tests and whatnot. But there's a lot of nuance to it where, you talking about like writing emails. It's like, I could almost benefit from having like a coding person on my side to help me look at this stuff. And now all of a sudden, I'm not just writing emails. I'm not just using a drag and drop editor. I'm taking the time. Like now I'm trying to like look at the HTML of the email and, is this configured correctly? There's just so much. That's kind of like a broader thing, but I'm just learning just how granular it can get if you really want to care about that stuff. And I just want to, the reason I'm speaking up about it is because I have to imagine there are a lot of people that they would probably look at those niche cases and just go, oh, well, like, I mean, it's less than 1% of people or whatever, but it's like something that we are trying to take seriously here and trying to account for all those cases. But it's not always an easy solve, at least for someone like me. Like, there might be a tech guy listening. Oh, I could fix that right now. But hey, at the end of the day, I'm a copywriter and I'm trying to learn more about a lot of different things. So I'm getting there.
Well, you're trying to learn more, but you're also trying to teach a lot of people all the time too.
Yeah.
If you could live in the world of any cartoon or comic book of all time, I mean, going back to classics, which one would you want to inhabit?
See, I don't know if you ask everyone this question or if this one's just for me, because I know I'm just a huge geek like that. It's funny. It's something that goes back to me being a little kid. I've always been just pure escapism, comics, playing games and stuff, and it's still do it as an adult. So I don't know if it's the closest I would say that I'd want to live in, because honestly, I think it's a little, if you actually think about the specifics, it's a little insane to,
right.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm just like, I have to deal with this every day now. That sounds like hell. Maybe I'm speaking more of like just how I feel about the cartoon. One of my favorite cartoons growing up was The Last Airbender. And if you don't know what it is, it's a show that I would recommend for anyone with kids, especially, to watch with them. It's a surprisingly very spiritual and very mindful focused show. And the reason why I'm attracted to it is I used to be a pretty religious person. I'm not anymore, but I still kind of have like this, I don't know what you would call it, just loosely spiritual side to me, where I'm a person like anyone else, where it's like, we're talking about business right now, but now we're getting kind of personal, where it's like, who am I? When I wake up in the morning, I do this thing as copy, I'm good at it, but what impact is it having? Like, what is my role? I think about that kind of stuff a lot, and that kind of stuff is still very important to me. Maybe not for the right audience, but that show really, those kind of things are like the focus of that show. And it's not just like in themes and in the writing, but it's incorporated into like every aspect of the way that people live in those world, where in order to like resolve the conflicts among people and in the world, it starts with finding balance and balancing the components of yourself and learning there are no negative aspects of your personality. Maybe I'm too passionate, so I need to temper that with, being calm and mindful and grounded, all these kind of things. And that's kind of stuck with me. And it does seem very attractive to me to live in a world that's less preoccupied with, ironically, I don't know, business and making money and how successful I am, and more of, how can I be a grounded, better person? And then the success comes with that, because I have found that maybe it works for other people, but it hasn't seemed to work that way for me, where finding career success is necessarily coming out the other side of like personal growth. I feel like it has to happen the other way around for me, at least. Like I need to like ground myself and figure out who I am, because it affects the work that I do and the way I interact with other people. I'm really attracted to the world that way. It's kind of simple, and it's kind of like a fantasy world. It's not really technologically driven, which I love my technology, but I often think, is it making us worse in the long run? Is it causing more problems than it's helping? That's a complicated question that could take up a whole interview in and of itself. But yeah, it's kind of a vague answer, but living in a world where people are a little bit more focused on things, I would say, that are more important to me, that would sound nice.
I'm glad you answered that, and I'm glad I asked it, Zach. And I hope you don't lose sight ever of that part of yourself, because I like that about you.
Thank you.
My last question, Zach. It's a very simple question. How can anyone out there, make today better?
That's a great question. It's something I've been doing work on with myself. So if you're feeling that way, you're not alone. And I think what we can do, and I say we, and I can do it with you, and it's just starting by really, unplugging from this internet and all the bad news that's every single day, it seems like, and just realizing that no matter how bad it gets, that there are things to be grateful for. I have a wife that sticks by me no matter how hard things get or, how down I am. And that already makes me richer than a lot of people. And we all take that stuff for granted. I would just say, just take a moment. Even if, and I get it. Sometimes you're like, no, I am grateful, but I don't feel it. Sometimes I guess we just got to practice that stuff until it feels real. And like I said, I'll work on that with you.
I love it. Gratitude is something that it's easy to be grateful if you just focus on it. And sometimes we all do need to unplug. So thank you for saying that too. And Zach, thank you for spending time with us. I've had a lot of joy doing this interview. It's always good to talk to you face to face.
I'm glad to hear it. I appreciate it.
All right, buddy.
All right.
We'll see you.
See ya.